Subsistence is futile.
We are bored.
Question: what do you look like when you space out? Are you like a...
Like Cletus, the slack-jawed Yoko.
You gotta try defocus the eyes. I mean, I've been spacing out since I was a nipper.
Do you hear the grasshopper?
Knee-high to a grasshopper. My word, the number of times my mother said to me, "You're always off with the fairies."
Fairy tramp.
Who wouldn't want to be off with the fairies? They're like tiny little things with wings and stuff. It's cool. What can I say? It's a talent, along with the uncanny ability to spot banana slugs in the wild. I'm very good at that. In fact, I am so good at spacing out that you need to be aware that sometimes you and I could be in a one-on-one conversation where I'm looking directly at you and I am not there.
She's not there.
The fairies come, the fairies take me to space. I don't know what to say. It's no slight on you. I just have one of those untethered minds that drift off in the zero gravity of the space out. Now you might say, daydreamer. Well, sometimes, but I'm talking about spacing out, which is daydream adjacent, but not daydreaming. It's deeper than that. I would put daydreaming and meditation in the same realm. Daydreaming, meditation, and where those two things intersect, that is the space out zone, the void, or as I said, the avoid void. A lot of voids there. The space out, this is the zone of no returns, which coincidentally is also the title of the thing I wrote. See how that all comes together? Pretty clever.
What the hell is that?
You're confused. I get it. Take a look at this. That person is a professional. Professional. They are spaced out. Well, wannabe professional. And I'm showing you this because if you are in any way talented or have a particular affinity for spacing out, then I believe I have found your Olympics.
Hundreds of Japanese young people spent an hour and a half sitting still, doing nothing, trying to win the award for most spaced out person.
Space out competition. Did you know about that? If you are the winner of the space out competition, you can win this sweet trophy, which, as you can see, is Rodin's The Thinker with a natty hat on. Backstory. 10 years ago in Seoul, the visual artist, and I'm going to butcher this name even though my heart, Woopsyang, created the very first space out competition as part of a bigger artwork project called the Urban Play Development Project. Sorry if you can hear the rain, it's quite heavy. California's washing into the ocean again. This is what Woopsyang says about the Urban Play Development Project. This project is experimenting with combining entertainment activities other than consumption with art in the jungle of the city, and the Space Out competition is part of the project. The purpose of the Space Out competition is defined thusly. The Space Out competition aims to produce a group of people spacing out in a busy city. It means to juxtapose two groups visually. One is to lead busy lives, and the other one is to do nothing in a busy city. Traditionally, there has been a conception that spacing out is kind of a waste of time. However, this misconception needs to change, and this artwork contributes to the change. Or to put it another way, it's like a space out flash mob. Man, I haven't thought about flash mobs in a long time. Remember that one where they pretended to be U2 on a rooftop in, I think, Brooklyn? Doing like a Beatle-esque Let It Be rooftop concert. It was not. Anyway, in Woopsyang's opinion, spacing out is a form of reward akin to material luxury. Agreed. I think it's sort of essential to the creative process to just give yourself permission to just float away, to detach yourself from the mothership of reality. But we'll get to that. So like I said, it started in South Korea like 10 years ago. More recently, it's branched out, and last year's was actually in Tokyo. That's in Japan. I'm getting really good at geography. In that 10 years, there was a small gap where, I don't know if you remember that thing that happened, like it was a global thing where, you know, people couldn't like hang out anymore. Do you remember that? Anyway, they did a virtual version where you could like upload just TikToks of that kind of thing. You're probably like thinking to yourself, well, I'm excellent at spacing out. How do you actually win this thing? Well, I'll tell ye. The winner is chosen based on 2 criteria. 1, audience voting. They vote on I guess you'd call it style. How convincing you are, how you look. You can even wear a costume if you think that will aid you in your mission to grab that brass ring, or in this case, Rodin statue with a natty hat. So that's voted by citizens, people watching. The second element is the technical score. Technical? What does that mean? Your heart rate, basically. Cardiography, how low can you go? Whose heart fluctuated the least during the 90 minutes? Did I mention it's 90 minutes? The 90 minutes of competition. Look at this guy. Vacant as a motel on Mars. I almost made an Elon Musk joke there, but let's stay out of those waters.
Danger, danger, water, water.
So the competition, 10 years old, like most 10-year-olds, it has a set of rules it has to adhere to. Go to bed! During those 90 minutes, you can be disqualified for the following reasons. 1, checking your phone. I mean, have you really got to see who's liked your latest TikTok?
I have to know.
You don't. Falling asleep or laughing. Those 2 things seem quite diametrically opposed, but sleep is like 1 step too far. You want to zone out to the point where you're at the edge, but go no further.
One shall pass.
And laughing, well, you're supposed to be zoning out. You shouldn't be like thinking of comedic moments. A perfect zone out is disconnection of your mind from the static of the world. There should be nothing going on. Blank. 3, no chit-chat. No yappity-yap to people trying to get them off their game in the space out competition. Space out or you're out. Pretty easy rule, that one. 4, no singing or dancing. Duh. They have one here that says drinking a beverage during competition not served by operators. I'm confused. If you're spacing out,
You're faced out on sensation.
how are you drinking something? There's no time for Tang in Space Out.
Energy Tang
That's what astronauts drink, right? Do they still drink that?
for spacemen and Earth families.
There is no Tang in Space Out. That's the point I'm making. But now I'm really curious about Tang. The trophy, as I said, Rodin's. I've spoken about the thinker before. Is it this or this? It's an example of the Mandela effect. I'll put the link below. Make it easy. So that's the winner's statue. First losers get a certificate and a badge. Ooh, actually that seems pretty appropriate for a competition where you don't do anything. So what's so great about spacing out? Well, here's 2 pull quotes from the website. I'm still on that website. I cannot vouch for the translations, but here we go. Quote, "This competition would be considered as a pleasant resistance to and a bitter satire on a hectic world." That's by the Deputy Director of the Editorial Department of Kokchi Daily News, Zhang Jae-gon. A bitter satire on a hectic world or pleasant resistance. I choose both. Second quote, "The time people become the most creative is when they are spaced out."
You just spaced out.
And that is by cultural psychologist Kim Jong-woon. I agree with that. By allowing your mind to just settle as a still pool, thinking nothing, being nothing, in the nothing.
Lonely. Out and spit.
This leads quite nicely to talking about the thing that I wrote, which you read, obviously, or else you wouldn't be here, right? I can tell just by looking at you, you are either a nothingness astronaut, a space cadet of the infinite nowhere, I'm that one, or are you the absence of thought astronavigator? If you space out on the regular, I think you fit into one of those categories. We'll get t-shirts made, maybe a hat, badges, stickers. I want a t-shirt that says Space Cadet of the Infinite Nowhere. I would wear the shit out of that t-shirt. I salute you, cosmonaut thought. See what I did there? Because naught means nothing and you're having no thought. Cosmonaut thought. Now forget it. Now the difference between the space out competition and what I would consider a real space out is the competition is somewhat staged. Be here at this time, sit here for 90 minutes, space out on cue, blah, blah. It's performative. It's a hot button word. Maybe some people do achieve that higher level of spacing out within the competition, but really you're just acting. In my experience, the most glorious of all space outs occurs somewhat spontaneously, unexpectedly, catches you off guard. You don't realise you were in it until you come out of it. Where was I just then? We'll get to that in a minute too.
Where did you just go?
The art of the real space out is not performative. It all occurs in here, in here, in here. That's where the space is.
Space out?
So why am I all hands in on the space out in the zone of no returns? Well, I think it is healthy to space out, to unplug all the outlets and disconnect the static of the world, to get your brain to that total quiet of space. It shoves all the pointless shit to the side to create room to dance, an empty space in space.
There's plenty of space out in space.
And here the author shall read from her own work. Climb on in through the perfect dot of the pupil at the centre of your consciousness. Dear astro-traveller of space and no-mind time, float and drift away from the violent gravity of responsibility. Temporarily, of course. Fade your reality. Move that opacity slider to 0%. Oh, I wrote about this idea of existing in the space between. The space between, for example, the electric bill and the washing up, a nothing space. Or the space between each beat of a shitty speaker in a car 2 streets over. You know what I'm talking about. Existing in that space out zone, in that moment of nothingness. What the fuck are you talking about? This is a good question, but I'm not going to explain it. Essentially, the quiet of space. Is space quiet? Hey Siri, what does space sound like?
In deep space, the large empty areas between stars and planets, there are no molecules to vibrate. There is no sound there.
There is no sound there. Tippity type on the Google. That's Siri pulling from some random source. What does NASA say space sounds like? Okay, maybe don't take your brain all the way to the quiet of space. Just it's what Siri said it was. There's just no sound. It's quiet, nothing there. It's not that soundtrack to some horror movie. The complete absence of static and buzz inside the space out of your mind in the zone of no returns. You with me? These moments where it's just you and your brain and the nothingness of being nothing. You're not seeking inner peace. You're not seeking anything. No agenda. Space out. This is lost time. You do not get this time back. That's the no returns part. In fact, don't even think of it as lost time. It just never existed at all. That's a real space out. It's like going in and plucking that moment from the timeline and just discarding it. No data at all. That's a space out. I shall read again from the thing I wrote. Go to that place, consciousness crusader, that place where thought detonates to contract its atoms into the cavity of its body, a vacuum of non-thought reversing all polarities, with stillness and quiet woven into the non-vibrational threads of it. There and only there will you exist in the space between. In the voids of an asteroid field of life, gliding effortlessly with invisible motor, projecting a force field of blah, turning out the brain's pockets to empty. I rest my case. I think of it as like a reboot of your brain. You have to spin yourself down to total silence. The hard drive coming to a stop and then whirring back up to reboot, and then it comes back online. Good old brain. I love to see it. I love to see people completely spacing out somewhere, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's on a bus, whether it's in the cafe, just completely like spacing out into this zone that nobody can enter except that person. You can't go into someone else's space out. You can see when someone's spaced out, you can see it plain as day, and I look at them and I think, I wonder where they are right now. I know I'm reading a lot out to you today from what I wrote, so I'm just going to end with one final thing. I tried to imagine if you were to try answer that question of like, where were you just now? Like, what would you say? And this is what I came up with. Where were you just now? I was in the space between the reality and the now. The space between you and me. I was nowhere and everywhere and all at once, both gone and here. I was lifeless in a storm of total tranquility. I was inanimate and forgotten. I left this place, this news, this cold cup of tea of life, to exist in the nowhere of our humanity. I was at peace in the cosmos and at the first blush of creation and inside the open space of unborn. Through the cracks and in the sky and at the edge of emotion where the wildflowers rebelled against the architecture of the world. I was there and not there, me and then no one. I don't know where I was, but wherever I was free. See you in space, where apparently it howls ominously. So let's make our space out space quiet. Keep that heart rate low. Or as I said in the piece, engage.
Engage.
To disengage. I'll see you next week. The non-event horizon reached. I am a space cadet of the infinite nothing. Where's my t-shirt?